Welcome to Repat Stories, where we talk to persons who return home after spending an extended amount of time abroad. This time, we're talking to Dr. Savanna Lloyd, who's from Jamaica and spent some time in Japan. And now she's back in Jamaica, and we're talking to her today to learn more about her experiences away and at home. So, hi.
Hey.
Also, Dr. Lloyd is a colleague of mine at the University of the West Indies, so she's also a faculty member where she teaches physics, specifically
Material science and electronics courses.
Oh, your girl is smart, okay?
Curious.
Okay. Alright, so first of all, we want to talk about baby Savanna. We want to talk about young Savanna in Jamaica and what that was like growing up.
Okay.
Wait, in 3 words first, tell me what growing up in Jamaica meant to you.
What it meant to me, like as a kid or just
Yeah, or no, like reflecting, like what was growing up like in Jamaica in 3 words.
in 3 words. Fun,
Mm-hmm.
educational, growing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me more. Tell me more about growing up in Jamaica.
Wow, that's a long story. I mainly grew up with my mom and my stepdad. My dad was very much in the picture, but my mom married my stepdad when I was very young. So I grew up with them, between Kingston and then we moved to Spain and then back to Kingston. Lots of stuff happening.
Spain as in Spanish town.
As in Spanish town.
Okay, so Spain and Jamaica is Spanish town. After what year?
Right. I went to Meadowbrook High. I went to Peace Park, then Meadowbrook High, and then the University of the West Indies before I went to Japan. So I mean, to be honest, I wasn't always an academic growing up, you know. Yeah, when I was younger, I wanted to be on Broadway. Yeah, so I mean.
I read that you danced, right? You danced?
Yeah, I did. I was doing it semi-professionally, hoping to become a professional later in life. But my life was really very much centered around my co-curricular activities. I mean, school was there, and it was alright. Like I was an average student growing up. I think it was not until after high school that I really shone in terms of academics. But dancing and theater was my entire world.
That's incredible.
Yes, I did dancing since I was 4 up until I did ballet exams with the Royal Academy of Dance. I took exams and stuff up until I was 17 or so.
Amazing.
Yeah, I was doing modern contemporary. I was in Jamaica musical theater for years. It wasn't until I got an injury that kind of dream kind of went slack. But yeah, I did ballet, modern contemporary. I did little tap. Pretty much a little of everything everywhere. I was even the president of UBS for 2 years while I was at UB.
So that's the dance society at the university.
You're right. Oh, sorry. I totally need to shut up. So yeah, I mean, up until I was 17 years old, I was dead set on,
Professional dancer.
being a professional dancer and eventually making it somewhere on the Broadway stage. I always wanted to perform instead, but life went left, and so I decided, alright, since dancing isn't working out, I mean, science has always been there for me. It's always been something that came easy to me. I shouldn't say all sciences though, like physics and chemistry, no problem. I could do it in my sleep. It just made sense. Biology for me, not so much.
Right.
But yeah, physics was just my thing. And growing up, my parents were always super supportive of anything I was doing. If I told them I wanted to be a professional whistler, they'd be like, alright, what school we need to get you into to do this, how much money we need to allocate for that to happen, just tell us what needs to be done in order for you to do what you really want to do. Right? I really appreciate my parents for kind of setting that environment for me. And it's not just my parents, it was like the entire village that I had. Because I'm pretty close to my godparents.
Are you an only child?
Yes, I am. Is it that obvious?
It's not. Based on what you said, but I wanted to be sure, right?
Yeah.
Just to know, but you had a lot of support, and that's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, that's what my family kind of goes. If one of us doing something, everybody will pop up in on the one bus that my stepfather have, and we're all going to wherever whoever has something happening.
Right.
So yeah, and we're very huge family.
Mm-hmm.
People would be like, oh, you know, you have your grandparents and your great grandparents and your great grand aunt, and that great grand aunt has a cousin that have a sister.
Right.
We all know them, I mean,
Right.
you know.
Right.
So my support system, I always had a good foundation where my support system was concerned. So anything else I wanted to do and go off and do, like everybody was like, all right, cool.
Okay.
We need to make this happen.
So,
Yeah.
so for growing up then, would you say, for example, extracurricular activities that take money? Would you say that it was a comfortable existence? Like, there was a need in your home? What would you say about that?
I grew up in like around a middle class income family. So if I wanted to do something, 9 times out of 10 it could be done. Not to say that I was like a money grabbing kid,
Right.
because aside from just like having a school fee paid and maybe my valley fees paid, I wasn't the type of person to really ask so much, but we were comfortable. Like I never had to rely on transportation, like the general transportation
With
system.
transportation.
I think both my parents drove cars. You know, I mean, we were comfortable. We weren't like super duper.
Right.
Sure. We were anything that was given to us, like it was fine. We made it work.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So the reason I ask that is I'm trying to establish, that for some people, one of the reasons they leave is for financial opportunities, right? And lifestyle opportunities. But it wasn't like you felt a need to escape for that reason.
No.
So that's where that question was coming
I
from.
understand. No, that wasn't the case at all. Probably around like the last few years before I left, things got a little financially straining out my parents, but that wasn't the main reason why I left.
Right.
It was part of the reason, maybe like 10%, but it wasn't me leaving in need of financial support. Yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah, thank you. So before you left here, what was that process like? So you were at the university, you finished your first degree, and you started a master's program, a field program, which is a master's of philosophy, which is research. It's a research program, so not a course heavy.
No.
It's research. So you're doing this program, and then what comes up that makes you decide, hey, I want to leave, and why is it Japan?
Alright, so I set out to do my MPhil in organic LEDs. So those were the devices that I wanted to study.
What's an LED?
And LEDs is a light emitting diode. So it's I don't know how much science can I get into. Can I say
I mean,
like
for the
a
average
junction?
person.
Okay, for the average person,
Homegirl said
and
PA.
like a PA junction diode,
Oh,
you know, you
gosh.
have an N type and P type. Alright, never mind. So an LED is really just a light emitting diode. So it's a light emitting device. Put in simple terms, you have a piece, you have this device, right? You apply voltage and it makes light. I'm pretty sure you're very much familiar with LEDs. It's in your TVs, it's in your general lighting.
Christmas lights.
Right. That's an LED, really. So when I say organic, so the LEDs that people are used to, that you see like these lights, and in most TVs, they're made of inorganic materials. So that's everything except anything that has to do with carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen. So basically like your silicon, your germanium, your gallium arsenide, those are inorganic semiconductor materials. The organic stuff is just a different class of materials, that's all.
Can you tell she's a teacher? She teaches people for a living. Oh my gosh, I would have never guessed.
Really?
Oh my god.
So
You're good though.
the organic stuff is just anything that's made from carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, those kinds of ones. So it's just 2 different classes of materials that we're using
Okay.
to make the LED.
I see.
What's cool about OLED though is that you can make it from solution process. For these, you need a dedicated fab lab, like a huge deposition system. It's very complicated, but for us, we can just literally make a solution. So like some powder-based compound, mix it with a solvent that's like liquid, and then spin it to make a very, very thin film, and then we just stack different organic materials on top of each other and we have a It's not much simpler.
Chemistry. I didn't realize this.
Yeah, it's a whole lot of chemistry.
Oh, neat.
Yeah.
It's material science. Because I was not digesting that.
Yeah, for sure. So I studied more of the materials that I used in those devices. I did a little bit of device engineering, but for the most part, I was studying the materials that they use in those devices.
Actually. And so you are studying that here at the University of the Cities in a master's program. You have an advisor.
Right. So that's what I set out to do.
Okay.
Though, I mean, that research field is what I wanted to get into.
Okay.
Let me just give you an idea of what the atmosphere for research for that field is like. Non-existent.
Okay.
So my
Here you mean like
here at the University of the Cities.
I see.
So my mentor and my supervisor, Dr. Tanya Henry, she has a background, I think it's in electrical engineering.
Okay.
Yeah, she was an engineering major. She was over by the Mona School of Engineering at the time. So she and I were like, oh, this is really cool. We should try to see what we can do to like literally create a lab for studying these materials and these devices. So she was supposed to be the head of device engineering. I was meant to be the material science head behind this collaboration. Now we are literally starting from scratch. We have nothing except our will and hopefully to make a way. So we applied for a bunch of grants. Long story short, got it. But I think to this day, out of all the grant money that we got, we were only able to purchase one thing. Just one simple cup, and that was it. In like the space of a year and a half.
So you were working, relying on this grant to give you equipment to do the work, but you only got one thing. So essentially you weren't able to do the work.
No.
And
we weren't able to, I mean the funds were there for us to acquire the resources and the equipment that we needed, but red tape, getting there, it just wasn't happening.
Okay.
You know, a lot of bureaucracy within that program. It just did not happen.
Okay, and so you're feeling how?
On top of that as well, she ended up leaving Jamaica in the middle of my program. And she was like, no worries, I can supervise you from afar. Now, I'm very fresh in the research field and there's certain things I'm naive about. For example, having a overseas supervisor. It's something that it's not feasible, you know, for somebody who has no experience in research. So I was quite frustrated in my position. Here I am, a few months into my program and I have nothing to show for it. You know, really and truly, how am I going to get this thing done? So out of frustration, more than anything else, I was honestly looking for scholarships to go elsewhere. Now, while you're doing research, I don't know if a lot of people will be familiar with the research process, is before you start doing experiments and whatever, you have to read a bunch of papers to understand what's going on in your field, what problems are people are trying to answer. So you can find a little niche and say, okay, this is what I'm going to focus on for my research. In doing all of that reading, as you will, most of the papers that I was interested in will be published out of research groups in South Korea or Japan. Right? I mean, there are tons of research groups that focus on OLEDs everywhere in the world, but specifically the basic science was coming out of South Korea and Japan. So I was like, okay, if I want to go where the experts are in my field, I need to get myself over there. So with that, I was looking up for a bunch of different scholarships. I was applying everywhere for whatever I saw, for whichever university was offering any scholarship to go and study with in certain universities between South Korea and Japan. Now, eventually I worked up on the MEX scholarship that was being offered from MEXT, MEXT.
Oh, okay.
So it's a scholarship offered by the Japanese government
Okay.
to any other country that they have diplomatic relationships with, for a certain amount of students based on the population of the country to come and study in Japan. Now, it's a fully funded scholarship, probably one of the best that I've ever seen. You get a very good stipend, like good enough to live and survive in Japan. Depending on where you live, of course. Cost of living within Japan is variable, depending on which prefecture you're in. But your tuition is fully paid.
By prefecture, you mean Like in Jamaican context, it's like a
Right.
parish.
Right. So the
So it's like a
prefecture,
state?
prefecture is the equivalent to a parish in Jamaica.
Or in the US, it would be like a state.
Um,
Or smaller than that, like a county.
it's small. It's smaller than a state.
So it's like a county.
Yeah,
Okay.
about that size.
Okay.
But it's like the major divisions in the country, pretty much.
Okay.
So it's what's a parish in Jamaica would be is kind of equivalent to what a state
Yeah.
would be in the
Yeah.
US. So it's the prefecture is the equivalent.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, pretty much all of your needs are taken care of in order for you to just focus on your studies
Mm-hmm.
in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, this scholarship looks great.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just go for it. So I applied. Long story short, got through. Hey, yeah.
Yeah, but let's do the long story.
Okay, no problem.
Because
no
there
problem.
were multiple rounds of.
Yeah.
So for people who might be interested in going to Japan, right? It's not like you got up one day and said, "Yeah, I have a passport.
No,
I have booked this flight." Like, no. What did you have to do?
Absolutely not. So, oh gosh, it was so long ago. Like not long ago. I mean, it was 2016 when I started my application, and the application process for this next scholarship is about a year.
Mm-hmm.
So you start your applications maybe like in the summer of 2016, and you're not going to know if you're going to be going over to Japan until maybe around March of 2017. or so.
Okay.
Yeah. So the first round is you submitting your application documents, and that's apart from the standard questions, you know, about your background, your educational background in particular, you need to write a research proposal.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to know what you want to go over to Japan to study. Mind you, they have different tiers of applications. So they have the undergraduate one, and they have the graduate program.
Okay.
I applied to the graduate program,
Mm-hmm.
and it's separated for MSc and PhD.
Okay.
But before anybody goes over to Japan to begin their master's or PhD study, they all have to start with them as research students first.
Okay.
So for the first round,
And is the goal of that to weed people out? Just to like, can you really do this or not? Like, what do you think the goal of that is?
yeah, I mean naturally. But the first round, I don't think is to weed out people whether or not they can do it. I think it's to weed out who has the educational ability.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Not whether or not they can do research. That comes in like the next few tiers. So after you submit your documents and you go through a screening, only like a certain set of people are called back to do an exam. The exam is just an English test and a Japanese test. You don't have to know Japanese in order to do the test. Okay. Let me explain. So when they emailed me and told me, all right, you've been selected for the second screening, which is just to do an English test. You're also going to be required to do a Japanese test. Excuse me, I don't know any Japanese. They're like, no, it's fine, it's just a formality. This was probably the first touch for me of what life in Japan was going to be like. A lot of it is, I don't want to say nonsensical, but it really is. It's almost like a facade. So you do a test, you put your name on it, but nobody really expects you.
It's
Yeah,
farcical.
nobody really expects you to know Japanese, but you just have to sit the test anyway. So you just do it, and they literally tell you in the examination room, just try put on something on the paper. Why? It makes
Okay.
sense.
Alright, fine.
But-
So you do this test.
So I do this test.
Mm-hmm.
The English test was fine. It wasn't anything hard. The Japanese test was, I don't know what that was, but I didn't know anything on paper. I was literally just choosing A, B, C, D, whatever. And that was it. In the third set of the screening, now they call back applicants for an interview. So luckily, well not luckily, I was blessed enough to be called back for the third set of screening. In the screening, you literally just sit down in front of a panel, and they're meant to interview you about your research proposal. A lot of the questions that I got in that panel had probably only one person asking something about my research proposal. So yeah, got through the interview. After that, it was a few months later, like about maybe 4 or 5 months later, that I got an email saying that I passed that screening. Now I need to contact professors that I want to study in Japan. So basically me just looking back through the papers and seeing which professors are publishing actively in whichever field that I want to go into for studying OLEDs. And just directly contacting them, just via simple email. So we have to contact around 3. And among that 3 was would be my future professor, Professor Heiki Murata, and it's really hard to pronounce his first name. But yeah, so he was very kind enough to accept me as a research student, and of course, as a MEC scholar, professors do want to accept these students because they come with funding. Yeah, fully funded tuition, and I think their labs also get an incentive, a monetary incentive to accept these students as well.
Nice.
So after all of that was done, because that's a screening in of itself. If you don't get accepted by at least
Nobody wants it.
exactly, then it makes no sense. So if you don't get at least 3 professors to accept you as a research student to go into the university, then you kind of drop off. So after that was pretty much a final screening.
So you're now at the point where you've been accepted, and you, what was there another step up? So was there another step after you got accepted by this person?
No. After you get accepted, you pretty much just have to wait on a call from the embassy to say, okay, we're definitely going to be sending you a scholar.
Nice.
So it was only myself and another girl, just 2 people they offer that year
From Jamaica?
From Jamaica for graduate studies. So
Wait, you said it wasn't just Jamaica?
well, yeah, I'm getting into that now.
Okay.
So for the graduate program, they choose only 2 students out of 3 countries, out of Jamaica, Bahamas, and Belize. So it was 2 Jamaicans.
So it was the Hunger Games.
I'm
It was the Hunger Games, and your Katniss Everdeen.
saying, except I wasn't killing children.
Oh,
you understand? Yeah, we're just knocking them out of the way.
All right.
But yeah, it was just 2 of us out of 3 countries, which is pretty neat.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
pretty
cool.
neat. So yeah, so we got it.
You got it.
We got it.
So, ma'am, you're going to Japan. What do you need to do?
So
What do you need to do to prepare? What's the mindset at this point?
honestly, for me at that age, I think I was just so ready to get out and start my research career. I was just so gung-ho over the fact that first of all, I'm going to be traveling to freaking Japan. And I'm actually going to get to do my research. I'm actually going to be in a space with other people that are studying the same devices. You know, I mean, I'm going to be presenting at talks. I'm going to be, in the lab doing my experiments.
Oh, I feel so. I feel the feeling.
Yeah,
Excitement.
yeah.
It's like it's only
My brain was on nothing but this excitement of getting over there.
Oh my
I
gosh.
think in my naivety, I was not prepared socially for what I was going to be coming up against. In my mind, it's just like traveling to the US. I'm going to a
trip.
It's
just a trip.
it's a vacation.
Right.
You know what I mean? I really wasn't prepared for adjusting to a completely different culture. Because when you look up YouTube videos, how to get around in Japan, they're talking in English. The people the Japanese people that they're talking to are speaking back to them in English. They're just going about their lives like we do here, going to the supermarket, going on the train, traveling around. It's fantastical. It gave me a very false sense, at least the videos I watched at the time, it gave me a very false sense of what I was going to be booking up before I went to Japan. All I thought I really needed to know was how to say good morning, excuse me, and thank you. Like that was my extent, that was the extent of my vocabulary before I went to Japan. Reaching there though, landing in Osaka.
How long is the flight, by the way? Did you leave from Kingston?
Okay, so the itinerary took me from, what was it? Was it
LA?
Kingston? No, I don't think I went directly to LA. If my memory serves me correctly, Kingston to maybe Miami, Miami to LA, LA to Osaka. I mean, Kingston to Miami, everybody knows that. Miami to LA, That's how.
Which is still a
That's
decent
long.
flight. That's a
It
long
was
flight.
long. I
But
think
it's still in the US.
it's still in the US. LA
Yeah.
to Osaka.
Yeah. How long is that?
It was like 12, 13 hours.
That's wild.
Mind you, my longest flight up until that point in life has not been more than maybe like 4 or 5 hours.
That's what, like New York from Kingston.
Yeah, I think it was from Kingston to New York when I was very young too. Like I
Yeah.
hardly remember any of it.
Right.
But girl,
That's
well, it was an experience, and I remember getting sick on the plane too from the food.
Oh.
Yeah, that was wild. But anyway,
So it starts because I know with people who go to Asian countries, the water is different, the food is different, and many times
everything is
your
different.
digestive system literally has to
And the thing is,
recalibrate.
I'm a person. I don't realize how the physiology of my body reacts to things before I can even process it myself. So I'm in my mind, I'm excited and whatever, but my body is losing it. Like I mean, my stomach was going wild on the plane. I wasn't keeping anything down. Why am I reacting like this when I'm normally a human garbage being? I can't process anything. Like I normally have a very strong constitution. My body was losing it on the plane. Like I didn't even realize I was nervous for this entire life change. It was hitting me physically on the plane before I
because
could
mentally
process
you're
it.
not there yet.
No, mentally I was just too excited. I was focused on something totally different, and my body was like, "Listen,
Hold up,
yeah, right."
Hold up.
So that was my first touch with reality, and actually, I was I appreciate having with Shawnette. Yeah, Shawnette or Shawnette? I don't remember.
The other person?
The other person.
Oh, you went on the same flight?
Yeah, man, we did everything together. So from Kingston to straight to Osaka, we were together. We even stayed in the same hotel and stuff. Yeah. So landed in Osaka. Oh my God, it's so pretty. Trees. Wow, it's so clean. Everybody's so nice. On the plane. Sure. Yeah, on the plane. But we luckily landed at a very tranquil hour.
Okay.
So the rush hour thing wasn't hitting us, thank God. Actually, the transition up until I got myself to my university, which was like about 2 hours away from Osaka.
By train or
by train? That was my first time taking the train. I was so lost. YouTube videos didn't prepare me well enough. I was just like, I got this. I know this. I'm a global citizen.
Right.
I can do anything.
Right.
Could I? What should have just been like a 2-hour transit took me about 3.5 hours. Missed my train, got on the wrong one, went on one in the opposite direction and needed to go back. I was like, I can't do this.
Right.
But I had to take the train in order to get to
where you were going. And at this point you separated because she's going somewhere else.
She's going somewhere totally different.
Gotcha.
And I think she went by coach.
Gotcha.
So I probably should have done that too. But I was like, nah, I'll just take the train, I'm good.
So you made it.
I made it.
You made it took you a little while, but you made it. Okay.
I'm there.
So what's that like? What's the adjustment like? You are now a Jamaican in Japan. What does that feel like for you? Are you chopstick savvy? Are you is the water different? Like what are you eating?
I'll tell you what. I already planned to try and be as open-minded as possible. The water didn't faze me.
Okay.
The food didn't faze me. I love all different types of food. I come from a traditional Chinese family, so I was very versed in chopsticks from a long time. So it wasn't a big deal. What really was kind of like my first culture shock was just the level of respect that I need to outwardly show to people, and how reserved other people are in greetings. Here, for us to hug somebody is no big deal. I remember when I was being introduced to my lab mates, and I tried to go in for a hug. I was like, "Hi, how are you?" You know, and they literally reared back, and instead, you know, "Nice to meet you," and they bowed. I was like, "Oh damn, sorry." So that physical.
Are you rejection sensitive?
Huh?
Are you rejection sensitive?
A little bit. But I didn't take it personally.
You didn't take you don't take it personally. When you're rejection sensitive, you don't even like your first instinct is you just feel bad. So it's not so bad for you.
It wasn't that bad.
Okay.
Like I knew okay, I knew the reason why. Once I can rationalize something, there's no reason for me to feel I can rationalize myself out of a bad or a good feeling.
Yes.
You understand?
Makes sense.
So I was like, okay,
Some people can't.
No,
That's good because I can imagine for someone like that, it would be really hard in a place like Japan, especially where you're coming from a very expressive culture.
Exactly,
Mhm.
and we're very physical.
Yeah.
You know, that physical expression for
Yeah.
us, and
Yeah.
just like being outrightly saying what's on our mind. It's very
We're colorful.
right. But Japan is on the completely opposite spectrum.
Right.
So all of a sudden, I can't outrightly say what it is I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm.
It takes people by shock and by it seems almost taboo.
Mm-hmm.
I can't physically just touch you. You know, just if I'm laughing or whatever. You know, sometimes when you just laugh and you kind of like push people.
Yeah.
No, that's not okay. I have to be very sensitive about what I'm saying and how I say it, because it may easily come off as maybe disrespectful.
I just had a realization. I have a question. So physical touch, you can be starved of physical touch. Do you feel like you experienced that when you were there? Because you would have had international friends. I'm coming back because you went to university. You said I was like 55% international.
Right.
But I guess it wouldn't have been that bad. But if you're in a society where we laugh, I would like push the person, right? Or we hug sometimes, or we sit and it's not weird if your knee touches. Did you feel like it got as bad as like deprivation of some sort, some of the social interaction that you're used to, or not really?
I must say that probably my international friends kind of cushioned that for me. So
Okay.
where if I didn't have them, I definitely would have been probably in a corner just hugging myself or being starved of that kind of ease of interaction in general. Not to say that Japan it's like stifling, but for somebody coming from a very expressive culture, to some degree, that's just how they've been. That's just how they operate. They express themselves very, very differently from how we do.
You are studying for 6 months. You're doing research for 6 months.
Yeah.
What's that 6 month adjustment? What's that like? You're doing research is also an adjustment culturally, socially. What is that?
Right. So you kind of have to make sure that you balance your academic life and your own personal life. Luckily, the research program is not. The research period is not as demanding. You're not expected to generate a whole lot of results. Pretty much just do your literature review, and every week or so you review your papers and you submit your reports on whatever you've done so far. There's no pressure. In that period, academically, you're expected to prepare for your examination to actually matriculate into the graduate program.
So it's like a qualifying exam.
Right. So you're expected to do research, and then at the end of that 6 months period, you have to do an examination to get into the MSc.
So they do the qualifying exam before you go into the program.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
So you don't just get accepted by your professor at the university and they're like, hey, all right, ready to go do research. No, you have to do an examination.
That's smart because usually, right? And that was just to go into the master's, which is a top
Right.
master's. But usually it's like you do the master's program and you start and then you figure it out. But that's smart. Okay.
So, mind you, the MSc program in Japan is usually like about 30 to 40% top classes. The rest of it is your research. So at the end, you're expected to produce like a good thesis, and you have to defend your thesis. So yeah, the first 6 months socially was actually a trip for me. It was a nice learning experience. Apart from having to deal with some really big culture shocks and just learning how to adjust yourself to life in Japan in the countryside, I might add, it wasn't as bad for me because I was at my university campus. It gives you a good international kind of feel within a Japanese society, so it's kind of cushioned with learning from a lot of other people while you all try to adjust yourself to Japanese lifestyle. So little things like what your lunch would look like, because typically people would eat in the cafeteria. That mainly looks like a lot of fish, a lot of fried stuff, which people would probably freak people out.
Like tempura?
Not just tempura,
But other types of fried food?
Other types of fried food as well. People think, oh, they just eat a lot of boiled food and lots of soups. No, man. Them love them oil. Fully love
Or
them
is
oil.
it because it's a college campus?
No.
It's cultural.
It's culturally. You will book up on a lot of just
That's
can
fine.
you please edit that out?
It's fine.
Um,
You might see.
Yeah,
And if they do, it's normal.
in a typical Japanese restaurant, you can be offered like a host of different fried stuff.
Got you.
Yeah, from chicken, they eat everything. So
Yeah.
chicken, pork, beef, fish, all types of fish too. Even what's it called? I don't remember the name. I don't remember how to pronounce it. I had it once and it made me sick. Sperm from male fish.
Oh, okay.
Was it from a whale? I can't remember if it was males. But anyway,
Yeah.
it's literal sperm from fish that's deep fried.
Oh, meat. I mean, not meat for me to try, but I
It
did
looks
not know about that.
it looks like a curd, and
Yeah.
they literally just fry it up and serve it to you like a block. It tastes good enough, but my stomach was just like, no, this is not for you, babe. And I was quite experimental where my food was concerned as well. So like the raw fish, yeah man, give me that. I want to try it. I didn't like it at first, but it slowly grew on me. You're gonna have to rely on a lot of fish and stuff if you're gonna be living in Japan. Vegetarians have a very hard time. I had a lot of Indian friends, and they could only go to specific shops, especially specific Indian shops, to get the kind of food that they need because Japanese people love meat.
So do you feel like your being adventurous allowed you to adjust a little bit better?
I think so, yeah. I was very willing to try different things.
Yeah, I can already see how I would have failed because I'm not eating, like, it's not even, like, if it just looks, it's a texture thing, like, if it just looks too soft, I'm not gonna.
Really? You're not.
If I smell a certain thing, I'm not
wow.
gonna. And it's not even like I might try it and not enjoy it, but I'm not that person. So
I
I
see.
already see how I just would not have survived.
Yeah,
And the snacks run out real quick, right?
I must say, like, for the first maybe few days or weeks, I was just like, oh god, I don't know if I can do this. But there was a point in my life where something kind of clicked that, listen, you need to stop fighting certain things and start going with the flow.
Okay.
So I had a very grown-up conversation with myself, like about like a few days in, because I was just like, if I keep doing this, if I keep comparing life in Japan to Jamaica, I will never survive here. I will end up going home.
That's a word.
Yeah.